Wife Quest is a surprisingly competent and humorous little adventure. It's perfectly happy to be a little bit crude, and it's also not afraid to give the player a challenge. It's a small and compact game created by a Brazilian indie studio and sold at a very reasonable bargain price. After playing through the game, I found myself to be quite impressed by the quality, and if you're into this genre, up front I'd say it's probably worth a look. So what is Wife Quest exactly? Well, it's a 2D side-scrolling action platformer with some really nice pixel art graphics, fluid animations, and a few light RPG mechanics. The game's actually been out on Steam for quite a while already. Originally it was exclusive to PC, but the version I'm reviewing today is the console port for the PS5. It's also available on PS4, Xbox consoles, and of course the Nintendo Switch. When I review games, I like to consider and incorporate other players' viewpoints in an attempt to more accurately present the game. This video is of course mostly my opinions, but I did go and take a look at the reviews on Steam, and it's sitting around 86% positive at the moment. It's been available on Steam since September 2021, and it seems like the majority of the reviews that I've found there lined up with how I felt about the game. The story of Wife Quest is a simple one. You play as Mia, a former warrior who lives with her farmer husband, Fernando. Throughout the game, you'll see that virtually all of the other female characters want Fernando for themselves, even the ones that are on your side, like the shopkeeper. Even though she may not look like it, Mia is a very angry and jealous girl. She's constantly having to tell everyone to back off and leave her husband alone, in what I would call the typical anime style. At the very start of the game, Fernando is taken away by a monster girl named Morgana, and your adventure begins there. Gameplay-wise, it's a 2D side-scroller which combines combat with platforming. You jump around from platform to platform, avoiding traps and pits while slaying as many monster girls as Mia can get her hands on. When you defeat an enemy, Mia can perform what is essentially a finishing move. Sometimes she jumps up and down on them, other times she appears to be kind of strangling them or breaking their necks. It does sound kinda gruesome, but it really isn't. Everything from the violence to the fan service style scenes are on the lighter side. When you perform one of these finishes for the first time, it gets added to the animation section of the extras menu. The extras menu itself has unlockable artwork, and you can listen to the game's music as well. The actual combat starts off very basic, with Mia only being able to jump and swing her sword. However, as you progress through the game, you'll unlock various other options like a shield that reflects projectiles and pouches for potions. Defeating the monster girls and exploring the levels will often reward you with gold coins. These coins can be spent on upgrades at the in-game shop, which includes things like an increase to your maximum health or a bigger bag to carry more items. After you've beaten the first level, you'll be able to select which level you want to play via this overworld map, which works in a similar way to the classic Mario games. The game does feature a checkpoint system and will allow you to start a level from the beginning or head straight to the boss if you've got that far. This is something that most players will need to make use of, as the bosses are no pushover. They will absolutely test your skills, and you'll probably need to make multiple attempts to learn their attack patterns. Each boss that you defeat will also bestow new abilities on Mia to help you and her take on the various challenges that the game throws at you. So now you know what the game's all about, but what are my personal opinions on it? Well, overall I'd say that I enjoyed it, and it's worth the time investment if you already like retro-inspired games. I don't think it's going to have a lot of mass market appeal, but for the price that you pay and for the gameplay that you get, it's absolutely worth a shot. I wasn't able to find all of the prices online, but as far as I can see, it's going to be under £8 in the UK and under $10 in the US, meaning that it's going to be very much in budget for a lot of people. As I've already said, this is, at its core, a relatively basic retro-inspired game. Therefore, there isn't really that much to talk about when it comes to pros and cons. However, for the record, I was quite impressed by the pixel art and the animations. Everything looks quite nice and feels very fluid during play. Platforming doesn't feel tedious or floaty, and the combat is quite focused and generally on point. The writing for the story is again kinda simple, but it's very tongue-in-cheek with lots of references to Mia's small chest, but honestly, I found some of it pretty funny. The game's music and sound effects are also quite good and do elevate the game slightly in my opinion. So far, this review has been quite positive, and that's because there's really not much that I could point to as bad or negative. I suppose there are some rare occasions where the pixel art doesn't look quite as good as it should or quite as good as it does in other areas. I mean, take the start screen for example. I think the stuff on the right looks far better than the large image on the left of Mia. That said, it's probably because the image is blown up so much in size. If that same image was as small as the characters are on the right hand side of the screen, it would probably look much better. The only other thing I can really think of is the difficulty. Now, from what I understand, the people that enjoy this game on Steam all liked the fact that it actually provided some challenge, especially when bosses are concerned. And you know, I'm not going to pretend like I'm some sort of expert on the genre, and I'm going to assume that the fans of the game do actually know what they're talking about. However, I do think that casual players of the game may find that the bosses are just a little bit too difficult. Now, I don't think they are, personally. I think it's fun to observe how a boss works and slowly learn to defeat it. I quite enjoy doing that. The thing is though, the bosses do kind of represent a difficulty spike rather than a slow increase. As an example, I found the first levels to be pretty easy, but then the first boss at the end of those levels absolutely destroyed me, and it took me far more tries than I cared to admit to finally pass her. I mean, sure, after that I did understand what the game expected of me, and so I learned and I got better at it, but some people are really going to struggle pretty badly, I feel. Is this really a negative point? Well, I mean, I suppose that depends on the type of player that you are. At the time of recording, I'm very close to finishing Elden Ring, so I do understand the get good advice. But at the same time, someone who just wants to play through the game casually and have fun with it may just quit at the first boss, and that would be a shame. So I guess it's not exactly a negative point, but the difficulty is definitely something that you should be aware of. In my opinion, Wife Quest is a charming but challenging 2D side-scroller with a raunchy theme, fluid gameplay, and difficult bosses that require your full attention. The saying of easy to learn but hard to master comes to mind when playing this particular game, and if you're willing to persist and learn, you will be able to overcome it. Ultimately, I can absolutely see some people hitting the first boss like a brick wall and just quitting the game after many failed attempts. This game, while flirty and fun on the outside, requires a decent amount of skill to beat. As I always say, not everything is for everyone, and that's okay. I think that players who want this type of experience will be in for a treat, but for everybody else, I would advise that you tread carefully if you're looking to play this on a casual level. If you enjoyed the video, I really hope you'll consider subscribing, and if you like what I do and want to help support the channel, please check out the first link in the video description down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.